Senate will come to order. Senator Woods.
Thank you. Colleagues, staff, and guests in the gallery and here in the chamber, stand and join me with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Majors, please call the roll.
Senators Aguilar, Balmer,
Excused.
Baumgardner, Carroll, Cook, Crowder, Donovan, Garcia, Grantham, Guzman, Heath, Hill, Hodge, Holbert, John, Johnston, Jones, Kafalas, Kerr, Lambert, Lundberg, Marble, Martinez Jimenez, Merrifield, Neville, Newell, Roberts, Sheffel, Scott, Sonnenberg, Stedman, Todd, Ulibarri, Woods, Woods, Mr. President.
Here, with 34 present, 0 absent, 1 excused, we have a quorum. Senator Martinez Jimenez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Journal of February 25th be dispensed with and that the Journal be adopted as corrected by the Secretary.
I think the motion is the reading of the journal, not the journal. Senator Martinez Jimenez, would you like to restate your motion?
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the reading of the Journal be dispensed with from February 25th and that the Journal be adopted as corrected by the Secretary.
That's the motion we're looking for. You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The motion is adopted. The journal is approved. Committee reports.
February 25th, 2015, Committee on Judiciary. After consideration of the Mayor's Committee recommends the following: Senate Bill 6 be postponed indefinitely. February 25th, 2015, Committee on Judiciary. After consideration of the Mayor's Committee recommends the following: Senate Bill 59 be postponed indefinitely. February 25th, 2015, Committee on Judiciary. After consideration of the Mayor's Committee recommends the following: House Bill 1062 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. February 25th, 2015, Mr. President, the Committee on Business, Labor, Technology is under consideration and set a hearing on the following appointments. Recommends the appointments be placed on the consent calendar and confirmed. Members of the Board of Real Estate Appraisers for terms expiring July 1st, 2017, Richard L. Shields of Centennial, Colorado, serves as a licensed or certified appraiser appointed. Mark W. Chapin of Eagle, Colorado, serves as county assessor in office appointed. Bruce Warren Willard of Greeley, Colorado, serves as a licensed or certified appraiser reappointed. Dean Lawrence Davenport of Arvada, Colorado, serves as an officer or employee of a commercial bank experienced in real estate lending reappointed. February 25th, 2015, Mr. President, the Committee on Business, Labor, Technology has had under consideration and has had a hearing on the following appointment and recommends that the appointment be placed on the consent calendar and confirmed. Member of the Public Employees Retirement Benefit Plans for a term expiring July 10th, 2018, Lynn E. Turner of Broomfield, Colorado, serves as a representative with experience and competence in investment management, finance, banking, economics, accounting, pension administration, or actuarial analysis, and as a Democrat reappointed. February 25th, 2015, Committee on Business, Labor, Technology, after consideration of the Mayor's Committee recommends the following: House Bill 1010 be referred to the Committee of the Whole, favorable recommendation, with the recommendation be placed on the consent calendar. February 25th, 2015, Committee on Business, Labor, Technology, after consideration of the Mayor's Committee recommends the following: House Bill 1028 be referred to the Committee of the Whole, favorable recommendation, with the recommendation be placed on the consent calendar. February 25th, 2015, Committee on Business, Labor, Technology. After consideration of the mayor's committee recommends the following. House Bill 1071 be referred to committee of the whole with favorable recommendation, with the recommendation be placed on the consent calendar. February 25th, 2015, Committee on State Veterans and Military Affairs. After consideration of the mayor's committee recommends the following. House Bill 1045 be amended as follows, and as so amended before the Committee on Appropriations with a favorable recommendation. February 25th, 2015, Committee on Health and Human Services. After consideration of the mayor's committee recommends the following. House Bill 1059 be amended as follows, and as so amended before the Committee of the whole with favorable recommendation, and where the recommendation be placed on the consent calendar. February 25th, 2015, Committee on Health and Human Services. After consideration of the mayor's committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 109 be amended as follows, and as so amended before the Committee on Appropriations with favorable recommendation. February 25th, 2015, Committee on Education. After consideration of the mayor's committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 186 be referred favorably to the Committee on Appropriations. February 25th, 2015, Committee on Education. After consideration of the mayor's committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 171 be referred to Committee of the whole with favorable recommendation, with the recommendation be placed on the consent calendar.
Senate Services.
February 26, 2015, correctly printed, Senate Joint Resolution 10, correctly engrossed, Senate Memorial 1, correctly enrolled, Senate Joint Resolutions 7 and 9, Senate Memorial 1.
Third reading of bills consent. Mr. Majors, please read the titles of all the bills on the third reading of bills consent calendar. Majority Leader Shuffle.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would move that Senate Bill 102, listed on third reading of bills final passage consent calendar, lay over to February 27.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The motion is adopted. Senate Bill 102 will lay over until February 27th. Mr. Majors, would you read the title of the remaining bill on the third reading of bills consent calendar?
House Bill 1121 by Representative Becker J. and Senator Sonnenberg concerning agreements between landowners and wind energy developers and in connection therewith clarifying the rights and duties of parties to those agreements and the effects of recording an agreement in county land records.
Majority Leader Shuffle.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate adopt the remaining bill listed on the third reading of bills for final passage consent calendar, which is House Bill 1121.
Is there further discussion on House Bill 1121? Are there any no votes? With 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused, House Bill 1121 is adopted. Co-sponsors: Senator Crowder, Senator Lambert, third reading of bills. Mr. Majors, please read the title of House Bill 1021.
House Bill 1021 by Representative Willett and Senator Merrifield concerning statutorily established time periods that are multiples of 7 days.
Senator Merrifield.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1021 on third reading and final passage.
Is there further discussion? Are there any no votes? With 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused, House Bill 1021 is adopted. Co-sponsors: Senator Kerr. Further co-sponsors to confirm that 7 days is a week. Wow, very popular now. Senator Lundberg, Senator Todd, Senator Newell, Senator Stedman, Senator Johnston, Senator Hodge, Senator Guzman. Further co-sponsors confirming a legislative week is only 4 days. Here we go. Further co-sponsors on House Bill 1021: Senator Cook, Senator Scott. If it were 3 days, how many would we get? Moving on. Mr. Majors, please read the title of Senate Bill 87.
Senate Bill 87 by Senator Newell and Representative Singer concerning the safe placement of children in foster care homes.
Senator Newell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Senate Bill 87 and on third and final reading and ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion on Senate Bill 87? Are there any no votes? With 34 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, 1 excuse, Senate Bill 87 is adopted. Co-sponsors: Senator Donovan, Senator Todd, Senator Merrifield, Senator Kafalis, Senator Martinez-Humenick, Minority Leader Carroll, Senator Heath, Senator Lundberg, Senator Woods, Senator Crowder, Senator Aguilar, Senator Ulibarri, Senator Roberts, Senator Garcia, Mr. Majority Leader, Senator Cook, Senator Guzman, Senator Stedman, Senator John, Senator Johnston, Senator Scott, Senator Baumgardner. Co-sponsors: please have the President. Mr. Majors, please read the title to House Bill 1047.
House Bill 1047 by Representatives Lawrence and Becker Kay and Senators Grantham and Neville.
Senator Grantham, Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move that House Bill 1047 lay over to the end of the third reading calendar.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. House Bill 1047 will lay over till the end of the third reading calendar. Mr. Majors, please read the title of Senate Bill 104.
Senate Bill 104 by Senator Holbert and Representative Lee concerning the continuation of the Colorado Division of Securities in connection therewith implementing the recommendations of the 2014 Sunset Report by the Department of Regulatory Agencies.
Majority Leader Scheffel.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move that Senate Bill 104 lay over till February 27.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Senate Bill 104 will lay over until February 27th. Mr. Majors, please read the title to Senate Bill 106.
Senate Bill 106 by Senator Woods and Representative Arndt concerning the continuation of the regulatory authority granted under the Barber and Cosmetologists Act and in connection therewith continuing the Cosmetology Advisory Committee and implementing the other recommendations of the Department of Regulatory Agencies as contained in the 2014 Sunset Report and making an appropriation.
Senator Woods.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move for the adoption of Senate Bill 106 on third reading and final passage and ask for the use of the present roll call.
The chair cannot authorize that.
Thank you, Mr. President. Did I say Mr. Chair? My apologies. Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of Senate Bill 106 on third reading and final passage and ask for the use of the present roll call.
Is there further discussion? Are there any no votes? Senator Lundberg, Senator Scott, Senator Marble, Senator Sonnenberg, Senator Baumgardner. Further no votes. With 29 ayes, 5 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused, Senate Bill 106 is adopted. Co-sponsors: Senator Todd, co-sponsor. Mr. Majors, please read the title of Senate Bill 121.
Senate Bill 121 by Senator Crowder and Representative Dorr concerning the eligibility for financing provided by the Colorado Water Resources and Power Development Authority of a public water system that is not owned by a governmental agency.
Senator Crowder.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move SB 15121 forward. Ask for an aye vote. Thank you.
Is there further discussion on Senate Bill 121? Are there any no votes? Senator Jones, Minority Leader Carroll, Senator Heath, Senator Marble, Senator Holbert, Senator Aguilar. Senator Guzman. No votes. With 27 ayes, 7 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused, Senate Bill 121 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Senator Sonnenberg. Senator Hodge. Mr. Majors, please read the title of House Bill 1029.
House Bill 1029 by Representatives Buck and Janal, Senators Gonzalez and Martinez Humana concerning coverage under a health benefit plan for healthcare services delivered through telehealth in any area of the state.
Majority Leader Scheffel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate lay over House Bill 1029 to February 27.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. House Bill 1029 will lay over until February 27th. Mr. Majors, please read the title to House Bill 1047.
House Bill 1047 by Representatives Lawrence and Becker Kay and Senators Grantham and Neville concerning a prohibition on the use of simulated gambling devices.
Senator Grantham.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1047 on third reading and final passage and ask for use of the present roll call.
Is there further discussion on House Bill 1047? Are there any no votes? Senator Marble, Senator Hodge, Senator Lundberg, Senator Baumgardner, Senator Sonnenberg. No votes on House Bill 1047. With 29 ayes, 5 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused, House Bill 1047 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Senator Crowder. Please have the President. General Order, second reading of bills, consent. Senator Scott.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for consideration of general orders, second reading of bills, consent calendar.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The Senate will resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for the consideration of general orders, second reading of bills, consent calendar. Senator Scott will take the chair.
Yes, sir. The committee will come to order. The Coat rule is not relaxed. Give a man a gavel, and God knows what he'll do. Mr. Majors, would you please read the titles to all of the bills on the general orders, second reading of bills, consent calendar?
House Bill 1023 by Representative Lontine and Senator Aguilar concerning the age limitation for persons served in a day treatment center.
Majority Leader Scheffel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that the committee adopt the one bill listed on the general orders second reading of bills consent calendar, which does include House Bill 1023, and ask for an aye vote.
Is there any discussion, please? The motion before the body of the adoption of the bill, of all of the bills on the general order second reading consent calendar. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, please say no. The ayes have it. It is adopted. Majority Leader Sheffel?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this point, I would move that the committee rise and report.
You've heard the motion. All of those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. It is adopted. The committee will rise and report. Do I have to bang it again?
You go down there. No, you already did it. The Senate will come to order. Thank you for expediting our time under the Scott rule. Senator Scott.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee has had a number of bills and important issues before it. Mr. Majors, would you please read the report?
February 26, 2015, Mr. President, your committee of the whole basic reports has had under consideration the following attached bill being the second reading thereof makes following recommendations thereon. House Bill 1023 passed on second reading in order to revise place on the counter for third reading and final passage.
Senator Scott.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the adoption of the report.
Is there further discussion on the committee of the whole report? Are there any no votes?
So disappointing.
I'm a no. With 33 ayes, 1 no, 0 absent, 1 excused, the committee of the whole report is adopted. House Bill 1023 passed on second reading in order to revise and place on the calendar for third reading and final passage. Consideration of resolutions, consent calendar. Majority Leader Sheffel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request that Senate Joint Resolution 008 be removed from the consideration of resolutions consent calendar.
That resolution will be removed from the consent calendar. Which brings us to consideration of resolutions. Mr. Majors, would you please read the title, Senate Joint Resolution 8?
Senate Joint Resolution 8 by Senator Crowder and Representative Navarro concerning the support of U.S. Senate Bill 1602.
Senator Crowder.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move resolution SJR 008 and the State Veterans and Military Affairs Committee report.
Committee report.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. I moved the report.
Yes, and can you just describe what happened in the committee?
Okay. There we go. The committee report, State and Veterans and Military Affairs, was amended as follows, and there is an amendment on the desk. It was.
Majority Leader, just say they changed to the copies of the resolution.
Okay, you want the amendment then?
It's already on.
This is what you did in committee right here.
Okay, the amended resolution, what we did is we striked Senator Cory Gardner as well as ours and substitute Senator Michael Bennett, Cory Gardner, Representative Diana DeGette, Representative Lamborn, Representative Perlmutter, Representative Kaufman, Representative Polis, Representative Tipton, and Representative Ken Buck.
Is there further discussion on the committee of the whole report? Are there any no votes on the committee report? Senator Stedman. It's a recorded vote.
Well, yeah, this is the whole thing on it.
Right.
Sorry about that, Mr. President.
Yep. Further no votes on the committee of the whole, or excuse me, on the committee report. With a vote of 33 ayes, 1 no, 0 absent, 1 excused, the committee of the whole report is adopted. I'm sorry, the committee report, State Veterans and Military Affairs Committee report is adopted. We have an amendment on the desk. Mr. Majors, would you please read Amendment 1?
Amendment L001 to Senate Joint Resolution 8 by Senator
Senator Crowder.
Thank you, Mr. President. What we did on this amendment, it's a very simple amendment. We had the U.S. Senate Bill 6.
Move the amendment first.
I move the amendment, sir. Move the amendment L001.
Do the amendment, Senator Crowder.
Thank you, Mr. President. What we did on this amendment was there was a U.S. Senate Bill 1602, and what we did was substitute as introduced. We did not want any confusion with this. The 1602 was one in the past. We did not want this to go forward with any confusion associated with that. So we felt the amendment was we just substitute that as introduced.
Minority Leader Carroll.
Thank you, Mr. President. And members, I also support L001. It's a small change, but anytime we're saying we support anything that the United States Congress does, we know that that can change over time and that they don't necessarily have a single subject, and what it starts like may not look like what it ends like. So this is just making sure that when we're sending a value statement to support the research and care and support for these veterans, that in case they do something with this later, that we're on record supporting a pristine example as introduced in case it got changed later. Small amendment, but I think an important one since we're sending a value statement. Thank the sponsor for offering it and also ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion on the amendment? Senator Todd. Is there further discussion on the amendment? Are there any no votes? With 34 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, 1 excused, the amendment is adopted. It was 0-1. To the resolution. Is there discussion on the resolution? Senator Todd.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, colleagues. And I will just be very brief, but I just want to thank our good friend, the senator from Southern Colorado. I started to say Alamosa. For bringing this before us for this resolution. I have a cousin, I'm going to say his name, Jim Resch, who died from Vietnam War injuries after the fact. That means that when the Vietnam Wall was built, he was not on there because he didn't die in war, but he did die as a result of Agent Orange. Last year, the U.S. government had a special celebration for those victims of disease and of injuries that were their death was the result of what they had been contracted while they were serving. And so I went to the wall last July, and they had his picture and flowers, and they had a special ceremony. And I think that is so important because not only do we lose some of our military in war, but the effects that were contracted while they were serving that come at a later time. So I rise in support of Senate Joint Resolution 15008 and honor my cousin, Jim Resch. Thank you.
Is there further discussion? Senator Newell. Colleagues, let me remind you, we are on a resolution. This is just like third reading. Senator Newell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also rise in support of this resolution. As many of you know, my former husband was a Vietnam vet, and not only did he come back with serious mental health issues, but he came back alive. However, he was at risk with Agent Orange, and it turned out that he developed a heart condition and a lung condition, and his first child, actually from a previous marriage, ended up having birth defects and died within 4 days of birth, and they also looked at attributing that to Agent Orange. So I thank you for bringing this forward, and I am a strong supporter of this, and we need
to get down to the bottom of the research of it. So thank you.
Is there further discussion? Senator Crowder.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about this. What this resolution does is very basic. What it does is it looks at the birth defects of veterans who served in Southeast Asia, not only Vietnam, but also Korea. You know, there's a lot of, we talk about diabetics up here a lot, and diabetics is a result of the dioxin spray for Agent Orange. So it's vitally important that we look at the offsprings. You know, the cancers and, the diabetics, and the ALS is another issue that we're looking at. To give you a brief glimpse of how this would work, up until recently, we had what they call the brown water, blue water issue with the military. And the difference is the blue water are the naval ships that stayed in the bays and whatnot, and they never set foot on land. And the brown water are those ships that were inland. Up until recently, the blue water veterans had no recourse on their Agent Orange. And, the reality is those ships were out in the oceans, and all of the toxic chemical was washing out to that ship. And subsequently, they would use that to desalinize their water, and that's where a lot of them contracted this. So this is one of the first steps on the birth defects of the offspring of the Vietnam veteran. It's a situation where we don't know where it's going to lead, but we would like the testing done. We would like the documentation done, and I think it's a fair and just, and not only for the Vietnam War, this could spill over into the current military issues, such as the Middle East with the toxic issues there. So I think it's a very important resolution, and I very strongly support it, and I thank those that did support it, and, I will pass on that. Thank you.
Colleagues, I'd like to remind you that we are on a resolution. Senator Lundberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I come down here to explain why I'm not going to support this. And I want to do this with great respect and for what I have been hearing at the mic in support of the measure. But honestly, I'm troubled with a resolution supporting specific federal legislation that I haven't had the adequate time to digest. I take every vote that I take down here quite seriously, and when I vote on a bill, I have it in my file. I can look it up, and I do. And if this were a resolution simply backing the issues that we've heard discussed at the mic, I could most certainly vote for that. But because this is specifically saying we support, and I understand that it was amended to say this specific legislation as introduced, but quite frankly, I find it a bit extraordinary and unusual to have a resolution backing specific federal legislation, and for that reason, I'm not prepared to support it, and I believe a no vote is a wiser vote than a yes vote if I don't understand exactly what I'm doing. And I do know that, I know this much, that legislation, whether in its introduced form or much more dangerously after it's been amended, but at the federal level, there are a whole lot of moving parts there. And I want to go on record saying I, too, would like to see us get to the bottom of the toxic exposure issues. But for my part, and I don't intend on trying to convince everybody to vote this way, but I believe that we need to be extremely careful when we specifically support legislation from another legislative body without having taken the due diligence that we certainly take on all our votes for the bills that are introduced here.
Minority Leader Carroll.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I too, having the same process concerns, have looked up this bill number because it's been on the calendar for a while. It's a little unfortunate for the timing issue because I do think with enough time to look it up, one, it's actually short and readable and comprehensible, and in its current form is a single subject truly aimed at multi-generational research on health consequences of some of our veterans on exposure to things like Agent Orange, for the very same concerns that the prior speaker had raised, because none of us sign a blank check on what we approve on. I can't really speak for someone else, but I will say that I went through the same process because it was on the calendar. I looked up the actual U.S. Senate bill. It does that, and really only that right now, which is why we amended it to say is introduced in case they did something different that we might not agree with later on. It would be sort of unfortunate for that process reason not to send our unanimous support not only for the veterans who've been exposed, but for the potential health and second-generation consequences on some of this for those who've served our country on it. Anyway, I just wanted to say the process issue is right. We've looked it up. It is what the bill says it does. It's a small, readable, digestible bill that really doesn't have any other writers or other subjects attached to it in its current form. And I hope we would support this resolution.
Senator Heath.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for bringing this. You know, the consequences of this are much broader than any of us thought. Obviously, I served during this period of time and was not exposed, so I'm very fortunate in that regard. But I think a number of us read recently the Ohio National Guard, I believe it was, had the planes that they were using were the ones that we're using and were doing the spraying, and supposedly were decontaminated, but apparently we're not. And now we've got a huge outbreak of Agent Orange among the Ohio National Guard. They are not covered by current legislation. So I think this is very, very important for all of us to stand up, because I think there are consequences of Agent Orange that none of us even begin to realize at this time. So I'm glad we're doing this.
Senator Crowder.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, we have this Senate Bill 1602. We went through that with a fine-tooth comb. We determined that it was directly affected to the veteran as well as the offspring of the veteran. And the only thing that's not a veteran issue in this is the setting up the committee to study this. You know, I find it's unfortunate that someone would not support this, but we as Vietnam veterans are used to that. We're used to being, you know, somewhat, and I take this personal. I think this is a veteran issue. You know, we had a situation, and we're looking at 1975 when that war ended. And what I've done since that time is not only myself, but a number of people like myself have come together and said, you know what, we need to make sure that the next set of veterans do not experience what we did as Vietnam veterans. And we've been very, very successful on that. But, you know, the reality is, you know, all we're doing is asking the VA to study the offspring of that veteran who was, affected by Agent Orange. I'm going to give you a few stories of Agent Orange. The first one I'm going to give you, his name's John Kressinger. He resides in Alamosa. He was a Marine pilot in Vietnam. Part of his job was to transport that Agent Orange. To this day, he is suffering from throat cancer as a result of Agent Orange. You know, and my hope for the best to him to come out of this, I've been working with him as a veteran service officer. I'm going to tell you about another, Randy Mortensen. Last year, this body was involved, or excuse me, a year before last, we did the Home Lake Military Cemetery expansion. Randy Mortensen, who was a client of mine as a veteran service officer, succumbed to his disease as a result of Agent Orange. And, you know, it's odd to say, but I was somewhat proud of the situation that you guys did on Home Lake, because he was the first veteran that was buried in that expansion, which we had run out of room. You know, I could go on with more stories than you could believe. Mr. Mackey down in Monte Vista has a construction company who's affected by Agent Orange. He's trying his best to stay in business and to perform as his dad did in that same business. And the stories are endless. You know, as a VSO, and I was also involved with American Legion on burial detail. When we fold the flag, I've presented that flag to spouses on multiple occasions. And the reality is, I was illegal doing that because only an officer can do that. But I felt it my duty to take care of the spouse or the husband of this veteran. This Agent Orange is a real deal. You know, I buried a lot of veterans in the San Luis Valley, and it's spilled over throughout the whole country. You know, I can't tell you how many people have died and not even been diagnosed with Agent Orange, but I can tell you there's a lot of these people, a lot younger than myself, that have succumbed to a disease, whether it be heart, diabetics, or whatever is associated with it, that you know have deceased because of this. And the only thing this resolution does is open this up to the VA to ask them to continue the diagnosis and the investigation on how this has an effect on the offspring. The offspring rate of a baby being born with a disability is considerably higher for those veterans of Vietnam. So I urge this body to not only vote for this, but have a 100% consent, because this is about the veteran. And I normally don't talk about this kind of issue, but I think the Vietnam veteran deserves this, and I think the offspring of that veteran also deserve it. Thank you very much.
President Cadman.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm going to be brief. I'm asking for you to support this. It's despicable that we're even having this discussion. We all celebrated Veterans Day together in the House, and we had this very conversation. These guys answered the call, and they've been ignored. They've been ignored. We've shared the stories of our families. I've shared the story about my family, and you just described what exactly happened to my father-in-law. He left the war after an injury, had diabetes, and died of pancreatic cancer in a VA hospital. But he wasn't lining up for 6 months for them to tell him he didn't have an appointment, and that's what they're doing now. Why are we having this discussion? Why aren't they doing their job? We're not talking about something that happened yesterday or last month or last year or last decade. This happened last century. Last century. To my dad, to my father-in-law, to your family, to our neighbors, to our friends. It's disgusting that we have to have this discussion. Congress needs to do their job. Congress needs to answer the call for those people who went before us and answered the call so we could be here doing this job. I've served on a burial detail years ago from someone who suffered directly from Agent Orange, and now we know his kids are suffering. Congress needs to do their job. It's time that they listened. This is an opportunity for us to send a message to them. Support this. Is there further discussion? Are there any no votes? Senator Lundberg. With 33 ayes, 1 no, 0 absent, 1 excused, Senate Joint Resolution 8 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Majority Leader Scheffel, Senator Woods, Senator Neville, Minority Leader Carroll, Senator Heath, Senator Grantham, Senator Martinez-Humenick, Senator Newell, Senator Roberts, Senator Sonnenberg, Senator Garcia, Senator Hill, Senator Aguilar, Senator Donovan, Senator Kafalis, Senator Holbert, Senator Cook, Senator John, Senator Jones, Senator Baumgardner, Senator Scott, Senator Lambert, Senator Johnston, Senator Merrifield, Senator Todd, Senator Hodge, Senator Kerr, Senator Garcia, I'm sorry, Senator, better take these off, Senator Ulibarri, Senator Stedman, I did already get you, right? Senator Marble. For the co-sponsors. Who's that, the president? Consideration of House amendments to Senate bills. Majority Leader Scheffel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the consideration of House amendments to Senate bills, which includes Senate Bill 85 and Senate Bill 161, lay over to February 27.
Is there further discussion on the amendment, on the motion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Consideration of House amendments to Senate Bills 85 and 161 will lay over until February 27th. Announcements. Senator Johnston.
Thank you, Mr. President. I know that you were kind enough to technically excuse me for the rest of the session already, but I've notified the Majority Leader and the Minority Leader to ask permission to be excused for tomorrow and Tuesday, and ask permission.
Granted. Senator Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. President. The NCSL reception that was set for tonight at 5:30 has been canceled and will be rescheduled due to weather. So we'll get back with you as soon as we have a new date. Thanks.
Senator Todd.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I do want to re-invite you to the caucus today for preparing students for career success. It'll be in 352 from 12 to 1. Remember this funny little cartoon. And so come and join us to talk about workforce for the future for Colorado. Thank you.
Senator Neville.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
I'd like to introduce, we have some folks from the Colorado School of Mines. Today is National Philanthropy Day, and if you would like to introduce yourselves when you get a moment, when we break, with some fine students who are, you can get your I Dig Mines pin, and we're doing some great work over there at School of Mines. We're really thankful to have these young students. They're some of the best and brightest, and I'd like you to have a chance to get to know them. They'll be here for quite a bit of the day today.
Thank you, Senator Neville. Further announcements. Majority Leader Scheffel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate adjourn to 9 a.m. Friday, February 27.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The Senate will be adjourned until 9 a.m. Friday, February 27th.